The Coyotes' fourth quarter fuel finally ran dry in Normal, Illinois. How's everybody doing? I'm Jay Elsen, and this is Coyote Corner. Well, after coming from behind in each of the last three games, USD once again found itself behind entering the fourth quarter Saturday at Illinois State. But this time, the deficit proved to be too much to overcome. Let's take a look back at the highlights. USD making its first appearance in Normal since the renovation of Hancock Stadium, and they would quiet the crowd early on the Redbirds' first possession. Dylan Knox with a great read on the pass from Blake Winkler. Third straight game with an INT for the senior, and the Coyotes take over near midfield. The offense moved into the Illinois State 26 before the drive stalled. That brought out Miles Bergner for a 43-yard field goal attempt. Plenty of leg, but he hooks it wide left, so the game remains scoreless. Coyotes went 3 and out on their next possession after a nice punt return. The Redbirds start their drive on the USD 33, and they struck in a hurry. First play, Winkler finds Corey Shandrick all alone down the sideline. 33 yards for the score, and Illinois State takes a 7-0 lead. But as they'd done so well during the three-game win streak, the Coyotes respond. Kevin Earl shows off his feet. 14 takes it into Illinois State territory with a 17-yard run. And a couple of plays later, Earl hooks up with Terrence Terry. Nice catch in coverage for another first down. The Coyotes march 91 yards in 9 plays. Cap it off with this 22-yard touchdown run from Jordan Roberts, and it would be 7-7 after 1. Redbirds get another short field to start the second, and after the Coyotes forced them into 3rd and 8, Winkler down the seam to Phil Dudley. Good throw, but a great catch, 43-yard touchdown, and Illinois State climbs back in front 14-7. They would add to that advantage on their next possession, again working with great field position. Marshawn Koprick rips off a 22-yard run to get the Redbirds into USD territory, and 2 plays later, Winkler down the middle again. 3rd touchdown pass of the half for the ISU quarterback. This one to Scott Kewen. Redbirds would take a 21-7 lead into the half. Coyotes looking to get something started early in the third. Earl with a quick hit to Nick Meyer, and he puts the ball on the turf. Illinois State recovers at the USD 27-yard line, and the Redbirds would waste little time cashing in on that opportunity. Koprick takes it 27 yards for the score. 4th straight 100-yard game for the Redbirds running back, and ISU extends its lead to 28-7. Coyotes refuse to go down without a fight, though, and on the final play of the third quarter, Earl connects with Tyler Wilhelm, 31 yards to the Illinois State 22. After they switched ends to start the fourth, Earl to Josh Vandermotten for 17 more, and it's 1st and goal, USD. 2 plays later, Earl with a 2-yard strike to Terry. 2nd straight game with a touchdown for Terry, and the Coyotes cut the deficit to 14. The defense would create some extra opportunities down the stretch. Aaron Swift with his 2nd interception of the season here. Devin Taverna recovered a fumble late as well. Unfortunately, the offense was unable to take advantage, and the clock runs out on the Coyotes' 3-game winning streak as they fall to Illinois State by a count of 28-14. Kevin Earl completed 22 of 47 passes for 256 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 fourth-quarter interceptions in the loss. Riley Donovan logged his 2nd straight 100-yard receiving game for USD, which actually had better numbers offensively. Coyotes racked up 372 yards of total offense compared to ISU's 286. But as you saw, the Redbirds had a lot of short fields to work with, especially in the first half, and they made the most of those opportunities.
I give them a lot of credit. They made plays. They made a lot of plays. They were really clean in the kicking game. I think they won field position on us and took advantage of that. And but the throws into the end zone were sensational. The catches they made a couple catches on their sideline to keep drives going. They outplayed us a little bit. 14 points not going to win many games, and we got to score a little bit more and nothing over our head, and I think we'll be all right.
I think we got pressure on the quarterback decently well. He just put the ball right on the money. We'd get a hand in his face, knock him on his butt as many times as we could, but every time he'd get that ball right on the money. So he made a lot of good throws. Wide receivers made a lot of good catches in the end zone. They just made some plays out there.
Now, with that loss, the Coyotes slip into a three-way tie for third in the Valley. Illinois State and Missouri State, both 3-2 as well. USD will host 4-0 Youngstown State at the Dome on Saturday. Plenty more to come on the loss to the Redbirds. We'll sit down with head coach Joe Glen in a bit, but first, Midco SN analyst Andre Field will drop by to talk about Saturday's storylines. That's next on Coyote Corner. All right, now that we've seen how things played out on Saturday, it's time to dig a little deeper into that loss to Illinois State. And for more on that, we bring in Midco SN analyst Andre Fields to talk about Saturday's storylines. And Dre, field position was a huge part of this game, particularly in the first half, where Illinois State started 3 of its first 6 drives at their own 42-yard line or better. All 3 of those possessions ended with touchdowns. USD, meanwhile, nowhere near as fortunate when they had the football. And as Kevin Earl tells us right here, that certainly stacked the deck against the Coyotes.
It's always tough starting inside your own territory like that. But, we just need to get a few first downs and try to flip the field on them. It was just something we kind of struggled to do all day, so we kind of gave our defense short field too, and that's where a lot of the scores came off from.
All right, in situations like this, Andre, got to be able to find a way to flip the field. The Coyotes simply were unable to do that on Saturday.
Yeah, because you're putting your defense, and they're a good defense, but you're putting them in a hard situation when they have to come in and defend a short field. And when you have to go a long way to score, it just means that you have to execute a whole lot better. And mentally, if you have a short field offensively, you're like, hey, we can do this. When you got to go 80 or something like that, it's a little harder to do.
And with the punt game problems that they've had, that's always something that's been up in the air this year. And they were getting off kicks this time with clean snaps, but short kicks, that was part of the field position in that as well. All right, well, big plays were another theme of the day for Illinois State, as all 4 Redbird touchdowns came from at least 27 yards out. It was a little out of character for the Coyotes defense, as a matter of fact. And we've seen one big play here or there this season, but nothing close to this.
Yeah, and big plays is something you hear us talk about when we talk defense all the time. You have to eliminate big plays, make teams earn it. When you can't do that and you're giving up big scores, it takes a lot out emotionally of a defense, as well as putting points on the board.
First 3 of those touchdowns for Illinois State came through the air, and that's the strongest place for USD's defense this season. They got beat up over the top. We've heard Joe Glen talk about that, something that cannot happen. It happened on Saturday, and it caught a lot of people by surprise because, frankly, they've just been that good.
Right, they have, and so you didn't expect that. And when that happens again, that takes a little wind out of the sails, too, because they're saying, now, this isn't something we don't do, but it just happened.
All right, well, penalties have been an issue as of late for USD, and that was the case again on Saturday. Coyotes played 6 times for 69 yards on the day. 4 of those were personal fouls, and a frustrated Joe Glen addressed those infractions after the game.
We cannot commit that many penalties. It's ridiculous, and I'm just sick of it. But, we took our left tackle out twice today. He's got to understand the game, and, those just 15-yard penalties just kill you.
All right, there's some flags you can live with, depending on the circumstances, of course, but the personal fouls, never acceptable.
No, 15 yards, plus they're showing that you're losing your emotion, and then they're big plays in the game for the other team. And they come at such a bad time for the Coyotes. They have to get this cleaned up.
All right, on the injury front now, Trevor Bama left the game after just 3 carries. Bama suffered and played through a shoulder injury at UNI, then re-injured it during practice last week. He'd been cleared by the trainers to play in this game, but the pain came back pretty quickly and he just couldn't go. Hard to say how much his presence would have mattered in this ball game, but it certainly didn't help to lose him. Bama had rushed for almost 300 yards in the previous 2 games.
Yeah, and he's a starter, so he's a big part of the offense. And when you lose it, you lose a little something, regardless of if you have a backup that's capable, which they do. But you still lose a little something offensively.
And that was the good news. Jordan Roberts came in, did an admirable job, proved he can be the guy when and if needed, rushing for career high 85 yards.
Yeah, and in the beginning of the year they split time, so this is someone who can carry the load, and now he'll get an opportunity to be featured, which should give a little spark to that young man a little bit.
And we'll see on Bama's status going forward. A little bit questionable as of right now. All right, that is our take on Saturday's game. And when we come back, the head coach will give us his. Joe Glen joins us next. And welcome back to Coyote Quarter. Jay Elsen joined now by head coach of the USD Coyotes, Joe Glen. And Joe, it's been a while since we've had to talk about a loss. Unfortunately, things didn't go your way in normal on Saturday.
We ran into a pretty good football team that played pretty good football, a little bit better than we did. We made enough mistakes. Again, 6 penalties, 69 yards. It just took us out of field position all afternoon. I thought their kicking game, as I went back and reviewed the film, they did a real nice job of pinning us down almost all day long, and we never flipped the field on them hardly at all. We drove, I think, 11 plays for 1 touchdown, but we just couldn't turn the field on, and they had the field position on us all day long.
And we're going to talk more about that in a bit. But first things first, things didn't get off to a bad start. Defensively, you guys start, and Dylan Knox comes up, 3rd play of the game, makes a pick. It's his 3rd straight game with an interception. He's really developed into a nice cornerback for you this season.
He's got great speed. He's very aggressive, good ball skills. And that time, basically it was a simultaneous catch, but he ripped it away from him. So great job, Dylan Knox.
And unfortunately, it didn't lead to anything. You guys move it a little bit down into Illinois State territory. Miles Bergner hooks a 43-yard field goal attempt wide left. And so you come away with nothing. And boy, you always look back in situations like you're in now after a loss and think, maybe that would have started us off on a bit better foot.
Again, we've got to knock them in from wherever we're at. 43 is in range for Miles, and he didn't miss it by maybe a foot, but he did miss it, and we didn't capitalize.
So you talk a lot about field position, and this is where we really start to we see that start to take shape. They go ahead on you on a 33-yard touchdown pass to Corey Shandrick off a short field, first play of the drive. But the good news for you was, as you've done so well during the 3-game winning streak, you responded. You got a bad deal. Jordan fell down on the kickoff return, so you had to start the drive at your own 9. But Kevin engineers a pretty nice scoring drive to go 11 plays, 91 yards, and Jordan Roberts caps it off, makes up for the kickoff return with a 22-yard touchdown run.
Well, I thought we really mixed up the run and the pass in this drive really, really well. And Kevin was on, and he and Riley Donovan seem to have a real good thing going right now. Riley had a big day catching the football. I think he had 7 catches, 109 yards, something like that. But anyway, we drove it down, and Jordan ran a 22-yard play, busted some tackles at the line of scrimmage, and took it in, and we got a game.
7-7 at that point, goes to the second with that same quarter. Again, short fields for Illinois State on back-to-back possessions here. And they end up, you force them into 3rd and longer range in both of those possessions, but they get up over the top on your secondary, something that we have not seen a lot against the #1 pass defense in the country.
No, that's not right, and that's not us. They threw 2 over our head, not long throws either, but they were basically jump balls in the end zone, and they made plays on us. They've got really good tall receivers. We talked about before the game. We're going to have to get up high on any jump ball throws, and we just didn't get it done 3 times, and that's the first 3 times we've given up touchdowns over our head this year.
Yeah, 21-7 at the half in favor of Illinois State. 3rd quarter, you guys look like you're going to come out and try to maybe get something going. You have a nice run for Jordan Roberts. Then Kevin Earl with a quick hit to Nick Meyer. He turns around, just loses control of the football. Illinois State ends up recovering. They take that in for 6 1 play later on a Marshawn Koprick 27-yard touchdown. It's 28-7 now.
We can't fumble on the 22-yard line and those type of things. It just it's too much on your defense, and we can't stay in the game. We can't come back every week from 28-7, and
unfortunately, we did Saturday. We gave them the ball on the 22-yard line.
Yeah, you guys were looking for a little bit more of that fourth quarter magic that you'd been able to put together the last 3 weeks. That luck ran out a bit on this day, but you did come back, make it a game here in the late part of the third quarter into the fourth. You start a drive, 31-yard catch for Tyler Wilhelm, takes you down into Illinois State territory. Earl hooks up with Josh Vandermont to get you a 1st and goal, and then he finds Terrence Terry. Similar play to the one we saw that tied the game at Northern Iowa, kind of an out route, 2-yard touchdown.
Well, I thought we did a lot of good things, really, if you're moving the ball that length, and I think we had close to 400 yards of offense. Yeah. We played the run about as good as we've played all year long. We let 3 balls get over our head, gave them a couple of short fields, and then field position was tough. But statistically, we did some decent things. Now, stats are for losers. I'm not saying we got a moral victory or anything like that, but we did do some really good things that I hope we can build on in the future.
The defense, much better in the second half. They really didn't do a lot on you offensively, and that defense forced a couple of turnovers late that gave you opportunities to maybe make another comeback. This time, though, the offense unable to get that done. You had Aaron Swift had an interception. Devin Taverna recovered a fumble, but a couple of picks in the fourth quarter really kind of sealed your fate in this one.
Yeah, we didn't make the big plays. Nothing. We got to get some big touchdowns and maybe get a. Like we did Northern Iowa, get a long pass for a touchdown, and things were uphill into the wind at Normals last Saturday.
Your confidence had built up so high, probably the highest it's been since you've been here. I mean, I think that's safe to say with the 3-game winning streak. Now, obviously going forward, the challenge is to not go back, keep that up, and keep moving forward.
Well, we got a challenge coming up. We got a really good football team, but we're home for 3 games now, and hopefully we can bring back the magic of the Dome and get something going.
All right, and first up, in that 3-game homestand this weekend, the Youngstown State Penguins. We're going to talk more about them right after this. And welcome back. Well, the schedule's only going to get tougher for the Coyotes going forward. Joe Glen and company are set to return to the Dakota Dome this weekend, where they'll open a tough 3-game homestand against 12th-ranked Youngstown State. And we are joined now by the voice of the Penguins, Bob Hannon. And Bob, let's start with how this team has been playing. It's been quite a turnaround from last year. What have you seen as the biggest difference in this year's team?
Well, Jay, honestly, I think this team's just tougher mentally and it's handled adversity better. I think there were times last year when we got punched in the stomach and we just pulled it up and we didn't bounce back. And the best illustration is the Southern Illinois game. We're down at the half, 27-14. We didn't force a punt in the first half. I think the team from last year, the first couple of years under Coach Wolford, would have packed it in and we would have gotten blown out. So I just think we're tougher mentally. And for whatever reason, that intangible chemistry is much better this year. And these guys seem to be able to overcome some tough situations rather than maybe pack it in and not play well in the second half. I think if we look at one turning point right now, it's the second half of the Southern Illinois game.
Of course, it never hurts to have one of the most prolific passers in school history running the show for you offensively. And Kurt Hess certainly enjoying a solid senior season. Talk about what this guy has meant to that program.
Well, Kurt's going to hold just about every record here when he's done. And we've had some great quarterbacks like Ron Jaworski and Cliff Stout who played in the NFL and quarterbacks who led us to national championships in the 1990s. But I think the one thing, if you ask Kurt, that's missing from his resume that most of those quarterbacks have is a trip to the playoffs. So I think he was driven in the offseason heading into his senior season to get this program to the playoffs. So great leadership. He's a good student. He's a leader in the community. He's well-spoken. So he's a leader, first of all. Second, I think he started poorly in the first game against Dayton. he took that personal. There was some criticism on his performance. And since then, for the most part, he's been lights out. And he's been doing it. We had some question marks with some young receivers and losing a great running back in Jermaine Cook. But he's been able to overcome that because of the talent that he has and also the leadership ability by just making everybody on the offense better.
Now, Hess is only part of the equation offensively. How much has the emergence of running back Martin Ruiz helped this Penguins offense?
Well, that was huge, Jay. That's a great question because we came into the season. I thought there were two issues. One, can we protect Kurt Hess? We lost some good offensive linemen. And how do you replace a running back like Jermaine Cook, who's still hanging around on the Browns practice squad roster? He's that talented. He's one of the best running backs in school history. So the emergence of Ruiz has really taken some pressure off Kurt. Not only now is the play action pass something you have to be concerned with because we can run the ball. It isn't as though we're one-dimensional. A year ago, Martin Ruiz was playing high school football. And we thought early in the year he could be a speed back to the outside. What he has shown us is toughness running between the tackles. He's also not given the football up, so he hangs on to it. And as the games have worn on, he has gotten better. And that's really rather odd for a freshman running back who's just getting used to the grind of playing college football. Martin Ruiz has been a big boost to this offense.
Defensively, Youngstown has struggled against the pass. They're giving up almost 270 yards per game through the air. Is that a concern coming into this one, given what the Coyotes have been able to accomplish through the air as of late?
That's a big concern because we've, in the past, had to outscore people to win. I don't think that's necessarily the case now. We're getting better. We still lack a pass rush, and I think that's the biggest challenge. If we don't send some linebackers or some corners, we rarely get a pass rush with our front four. The problem there is you put your secondary in a vulnerable situation if you start sending 5-6 guys after the quarterback. That is definitely a concern, and I think as we head into this game and our stretch run, which is really brutal, that would be the biggest concern. Defensively overall, but especially against a quarterback, if we give him time, likely someone's going to get open, but if we blitz, that leaves ourselves vulnerable to some big plays.
All right, that again, Bob Hannon from the Penguins Radio Network. Well, stay tuned. Joe Glen will be back to give us his thoughts on Saturday's showdown with Youngstown State right after this.
We got to take this 3-game run at home and starts this Saturday with Youngstown State. Throw the record out the window. We got to go. We got to defend the dome. We're at home. We've played well in here. There's a lot of hope that we have left.
Now the key to starting off this homestand on the right foot will be finding a way to slow down the most explosive offense in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Youngstown State, which averages almost 40 points and a league best 432 yards per game, lives for the big play. And Coach Glen says the Coyotes have to be better at taking that away than they were against Illinois State.
Well, I hope we learned something from our game at Illinois State, and that's not like us. So we've played some good teams that can throw the ball over the top, and have not done it until last Saturday.
Kickoff between number 12 Youngstown State and USD is slated for 1 p.m. at the Dakota Dome on Saturday. We will be there. We'll be back here to break it all down for you next Tuesday night on another episode of Coyote Corner.